Welcome to Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff, where we interview newsmakers, storytellers, and all-around interesting people. Sit back, relax, unless you're driving, and enjoy the show. Here's Jackson.
Hello. I am Jackson Huff. This is Not in a Huff. Thanks so much for being here this week. Another great one. This one is particularly special just because it was so nice and cool to speak to this person. I interviewed Daphne Maxwell Reid. Now, she's best known probably for her portrayal of Aunt Vivian in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It was so special to speak with her just because I watched the reunion special of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that was done on HBO Max back in December 2020, and just to see her elegance and her grace and how she did the show. Because for those who don't know, with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, for the first 3 years, one person played the role of Aunt Vivian, and for the last 3 years, another did. And that second person was Daphne Maxwell Reid. And just the way that she welcomed in the other Aunt Vivian, because there was some turmoil and some drama that happened back then that made the original, the OG Aunt Vivian not stay with the show. But Daphne was just so welcoming and so happy to see the other person who they had not seen for almost 30 years, that I knew this is a person that I have to try my best to speak with. In my research of once I knew that I was going to be able to speak with her, have that opportunity, just the research and to see, wow, this person, just like everyone else, has such a story and such a powerful one. We're going to talk about it, but as a woman of color back in the 60s and early 70s, the barriers that she broke was just absolutely amazing and fascinating to speak with her about, something I didn't know too much about before researching her for this interview. But man, it was such an honor to speak with her. It was so nice to speak with her. She's married to another actor that Tim Reid, that you might know from parts like Sister Sister. They worked a lot together in sitcoms back in the 80s. But not even to speak about him. She is just an absolutely amazing person, done an amazing things. This success couldn't have happened to a better person. I was honored to speak with her, hear a little bit more about her story, just a little bit of her time, and also, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was such an awesome show. I remember watching it growing up and just really enjoying it. Everyone knows the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air song. I'm almost positive everyone can break out just a little bit of it. Maybe the Carlton and do that dance and things like that. Just a really good show that transcended. It didn't matter whether you were white, black, or a pretty shade of purple. It was just a great show. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed speaking to her. No more rambling on. I think I've kind of already told you just how special it was to speak with her, but without further ado, here is my interview with Daphne Maxwell Reid. I am here today with Daphne Maxwell Reid. Daphne, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Well, thanks so much for agreeing to join me. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. Well, let's just kind of get right into it. Obviously, we're going to talk about, your awesome acting career. But before that, let's kind of talk about the very beginning. You've accomplished so much, but let's talk just a little bit about growing up in New York and how your upbringing was.
I came from a nice family of poor people who lived in the projects, but we had a whole family and a very responsible two parents who really expected good things of us and were very strict with us and pushed education, but they also pushed joy and culture and family. And it was just a wonderful place to grow up because of all of the things that are available in New York City, all the cultural outlets and things to do and educational adventures and educational resources. It was a very fine place to grow up back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s when I did it.
Yeah, and obviously education's huge. That's what I do for a living. I'm in higher education, so it's great to hear that obviously your parents kind of pushed education.
Oh,
I've listened to some of your other interviews, and I know that education kind of paid off. You went to a really great high school in New York City, and then you went off to Northwestern as well. So something was paying off based on what your parents pushed, right?
pushed and what God gave me in gifts of intelligence.
Yeah. Well, other than, acting and well before that, you broke a lot of barriers when we're talking about Northwestern. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you were the first African-American homecoming queen. Is that correct?
I was, yes,
How
much
did
to their chagrin. Yeah.
and how did that come about?
My roommates pushed my picture onto the platform and said, "You're going to run for homecoming queen." I was modeling at the time, so they were really proud of me.
Yeah.
And I said, "I don't even know what a homecoming queen is," but I looked in a couple of yearbooks before me and said, "Oh, okay, they ride on the float and they go to the football game. Okay, that's fine." And I got selected to be on the court, which was very surprising to me. And that happened on a Thursday afternoon. And that Thursday, they told me that we would be riding in a float on Friday, and we were going to go to some place where the float ended and the queen would be crowned. And then they said, "You need a white gown to ride on the float." Of course, I didn't have a white gown, but I had the gift of knowing how to sew. So I went directly to my fabric store and whipped me up a white gown for Friday, rode in the parade, doing your little queenly wave to the students. I was very much wanting to go to Pittsburgh, where my then boyfriend was playing football that weekend. And I really was not interested in being the homecoming queen. I said, "Okay, Friday night, we'll do this. She'll be selected. I get out of here Saturday morning." Well, we got up to the top of the hill and they called my name. And I didn't hear it. The girl next to me had to hit me and say, "They said you." She wasn't pleased. When I walked over to the president of the university who was to crown the queen, somebody handed me some roses in my arms, and he looked at me, almost spit, and said, "I have to hold this on your head till they take pictures." And he put this little rose crown on my head and turned and walked away. I said, "Oh, okay." And everybody left the area, and somebody in the crowd said, "Come with me. You're supposed to go over to Scott Hall now and be introduced to the Alumni Association." Nobody was telling me anything. The other four girls had whisked away, and one of them was in tears. And we were in the behind the stage in Scott Hall. And poor little girl was just crying her eyes out. I said, "I need to get out of here. So you want the crown? I'll be happy to give it to you. If it means that much to you, because it don't mean nothing to me."
Which probably didn't help. These people were so excited about it, and you're like,
"Oh, please, come on. What are you talking about?" I didn't know how I had gotten elected. But if you figure there are 5 of us on the court and they split the vote 4 ways for them, then I was an outlier. And they were each introduced individually to the Alumni Association on the stage, and you could hear backstage the applause, and they took their bow, and then they got to the queen. And I walked out on stage, and there was dead silence. And I said, "Oh, thank you." And I left. And I went to my dorm and I told my roommates, see what happens? Now I can't go. I can't go to Pittsburgh. But the joy I had was the community that surrounded me at the football game, of all of the other Black students in attendance at Northwestern. And there was probably by then about 100, 120. And the Black press showed up. And I was featured on the cover of the Jet magazine and in the Amsterdam News. And my community celebrated me. So that was joyous. But otherwise, the yearbook came out that year and there wasn't even a listing of my name in the yearbook. So, of course, I go to the yearbook editor and said, "Excuse me, Miss whatever your name is, why am I not in this yearbook?" And she said, "It wasn't important this year." I said, "I understand." And that kind of put a wedge in my relationship with Northwestern for about 40 years.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, well, that's quite the story for sure. I'm hoping that that relationship has at least kind of simmered a little bit, right?
Well, the Black Alumni Association 40 years later invited me to receive a Hall of Fame award. And I think it was because I was on The Fresh Prince, but whatever. So I came and they gave me the award and said, "Please tell us about your experiences at Northwestern." And I did. And they said, "We had no idea." I said, "I know you don't." They didn't write it down. So they called the president, who apologized to me and invited me to crown the queen the next year.
Well, that's good.
And the relationship just defrosted a little bit.
Well, that's good. At least they did something. Obviously, nothing really makes up for the way that they handled the situation, but they did something, I guess. So
they did something years later, but it really still was not important to me. The snub was more important than the actual crown. Right.
Yeah. So I'm sure it's something that you maybe are even more proud of. You were talking about being on Jet magazine, but another barrier you broke, you were the first person of color on Glamour magazine's cover as well, correct?
Correct. And that was a surprise to me too.
Yeah.
I had been doing editorial modeling while I was in school, and it was just another shoot that I had gone to New York to do. And going between Chicago and New York back then, $25 round trip for a student fare. So it was easy to fly back and forth. And it was just another shoot that I did. I got there. I don't know that I was in front of this photographer for more than a few minutes. I don't know that he used a whole roll of film. And my mentor said, "Okay, you're finished. You can go back to school now." Okay. And I walked by the newsstand months later, and that was me on the cover. They didn't bother to call me and tell me.
Really? It was you. You just saw yourself without even knowing it was going to happen.
Yeah, that was a delight.
Yeah. So did you pick up a few copies?
You bet. And I still have them.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at it now. And so other than your smiling face and that red outfit, the whole rest of the thing is how to. So just for fun, do you remember from 1969 how to give the best cocktail party of the season?
Oh, I do it often.
All kinds of how to. So I don't know if it was a how
I guess
to.
that's what they were talking about at that season.
Yeah, that's funny. So yeah, obviously you've done so much more than just acting. I know in another interview that I heard from somebody asked you about, how does it feel that you broke on all these barriers and why do you think it happened? And what you said I thought was kind of interesting. You said you think you were just it was at that moment that a lot of barriers were being broken. So you were just kind of lucky that you got to do a few of them.
I was in the right place at the right time, and nobody had done it before me. So I was the first.
Yeah.
But you can only deal with that in hindsight. I mean, a pioneer doesn't strive to be the first. You just move out on faith and walk your path. But when you look back, you say, I was the first to do that. Okay. Makes a pioneer out of you, but that's also how you get shot in the back, is being a pioneer.
Yeah. Yeah. So after Northwestern, after that, you completed. Um, what did you do then? I don't know whether acting came right away or what did you do right after Pioneer, right after Northwestern?
I graduated with a degree in interior design and architecture, but I was still modeling, and I was modeling also in Chicago and doing television commercials.
Mhm.
So that was really fun. I did my first commercial was a national commercial, and I was able to join Screen Actors Guild. And that was one of the smartest things I ever did in my life. And from then, I just kept doing little films of uh, corporate films and narrations and doing voice work for commercials. I was having a really good time. And Robert Conrad came to town in Chicago, and he was doing a series called The Duke. And he was auditioning the talent in town, and I was one of the people he auditioned. And we had a rapport, and he put me in this series as a series regular. And okay, I was prepared because I had done acting in high school and taken workshops when I was living in New York. I was part of something called a group theater workshop that became the Negro Ensemble Company, which is, it was just surrounded and filled with lots of Black talent and lots of information. And I was doing it as a lark, but boy, I had a good time doing it. And it prepared me for that opportunity that Robert gave me. Then I moved out to Los Angeles a couple of years later, and he was shooting another show. And of course, I said, "Hey, I'm in town." And he said, "Oh, good. I'm doing another show and I have a part for you." I said, "Thank you." And I was able to get an agent, and I did a show, and then I did another movie with him, a television movie. And then I just kept working.
Yeah.
And here I am.
And here you are. So, I know that, acting wasn't always the dream. You said that you were, in some plays and did some acting in high school. But what do you think created that passion to actually, after Northwestern, after that interior design degree, just to continue with it? Was it just meeting that particular person and just rolling with it and keep on rolling, or what do you think created that passion?
I don't know that there was ever a passion. It was the journey that I had chosen.
Hmm.
And it's like you get to a stop sign, you turn left or you turn right. I turned right, and I kept going on that path. It could have been totally different had I not made the choice. So all of the things that happened to me came from making choices at that moment and being again in the right place at the right time when people were looking for something like me. And there was an opportunity for me to step into a role that I was prepared to carry and enjoyed doing. And as long as I enjoyed doing it, I kept doing it. When things were slow, it didn't really bother me because I had other things that I really liked to do. So I did them.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us this, you mentioned a few of your early roles, but tell us just about a few of those other sitcoms and TV shows you were on, Simon and Simon, Frank's Place, Snoops. And I also noticed that all of them have another actor named Tim Reed in it. I don't know if you've kept in
Yeah.
contact with him at all, or.
Well, yeah. I've known him for quite a while. I did WKRP with him as well. I had never even seen WKRP when we re-met. We had worked together in Chicago modeling, doing Sears catalogs and United Airlines commercials and things. But he was just another guy I worked with. I had no bells about this guy. And we got reacquainted. He invited me on a date. He said, "Scott, let's have a drink and, talk about old times." And it was supposed to be a 5-minute drink because he was on his way somewhere. And it turned into a 5-hour gab fest. And that was 40 years ago. And we just
still
kept talking.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
And then I got to work with him.
Yeah, you've got to work with him several times. How is that?
Oh,
How is that to, I guess, work with your significant other?
it can be heaven and it can be hell.
Yeah.
It depends on the day.
Yeah.
But it was a great ride, I can tell you that. I mean, the whole journey was really a wonderful ride. And to do it as a family was even better.
I bet.
We didn't marry until 1982, but um, we got to do Simon and Simon together. And then when he stopped Simon and Simon and created Frank's Place, then his partner, Hugh Wilson, said, "There's a part for Daphne. I want Daphne to do this." Okay. And then it just kept going. And when Frank's Place got canceled, CBS gave him Snoops, and he produced it and directed it and damn near wrote it and acted in it and almost died doing it. And when that show was over, I said, "Mr. Reid, this is show business. This isn't real life. Let's have a life now." And we moved to Virginia. So we had to kind of quiet down for a little while. We bought a beautiful farm in Charlottesville, and we were chilling out, relaxing, maxing all cool, and
and then another opportunity came available, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously we've made it what, 17 minutes without, mentioning obviously the role that a lot of people know you for, and that is Aunt Vivian from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So tell us just a little bit about, I guess, the uniqueness of joining a cast after it's already been on the air. It's already a relatively popular show. How was that to join that cast and step into a established role?
I was not asked to recreate the role like the other Aunt Vivian, so they were hiring me to do it my way. The cast knew of my work, my previous work, and respected it. And I was welcomed with open arms because I had a great relationship with James Avery that kind of was discovered during the audition process. And I just fell in love with the guy. He was a very, very, very good friend of mine. And we had a lot in common, and we had a lot to share with the other cast, being the grown-ups on the set. And it was just an amazing adventure with that group, a really lovely, warm time. There was not a beat missed. I mean, we stepped out on the stage that fourth season and just hit the ground running.
Yeah, and I think that when it comes to shows and recasting characters, I think what made this one so easy was that they weren't trying to just exactly emulate what they already had. It wasn't like they were just trying to act like nothing had happened. Obviously, it's got to be the same, person within the show, but it was a different dynamic. I think that's kind of what made it work, actually, not just to try to, you're not fooling anybody. It's not like people don't know that they've changed. So was that important to you? I feel like that it would be, it's obviously important not to just try to be the other person, but did you almost feel a pressure to make sure you completely make it your own?
It's impossible to try to be something else.
Right.
I could only be myself. That's what I had to bring. If they didn't want that, they would have selected somebody who could bring what they wanted to bring. Right. I could only bring me, and I think I tried my best to bring some respect and some class and, act like a woman who lived in Bel-Air. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I like money too. Yeah, I can play that.
Yeah. And you mentioned in the reunion special, that you said they were talking, about a show and it was going to star a rapper, and you were thinking, no, thanks. So did they come to you before it started and mention the show?
I was just asked to go to an audition, just like everybody else is asked to go to an audition. Mm-hmm. And I said, what is the project? And they said, oh, it's a sitcom with a young rapper. And I said, no. Thank you very much. I had just finished Frank's Place and Snoops, and a sitcom with a young rapper was not in my taste frame. So I didn't go.
Yeah.
And 3 years later, they called, and I had seen the show and thought it was so cute. And I said, okay, I'm going this time. And I did. And it took about 2 weeks to get that part, but I got it.
You got it. And you made it something that was really awesome, I think.
Thank you.
So I mean, that show, I think that it was revolutionary and broke some barriers too. Did you guys feel any kind of, I guess, pressure based off of, I guess, the differentness of the show and trying to break some of those barriers in TV, as the reunion was talking about? There's really only 3 shows at that time that was portraying, a Black family. So did you guys feel any of that pressure?
I don't know if they did, but I had been portraying a Black woman for many years.
Probably your whole life, right?
Yeah. And I had portrayed a Black family in Frank's Place and in Snoop's. And so portraying a Black family was not a burden or a challenge to me. I'm sure it wasn't a challenge to them either, because they all came from Black families. But we had the privilege of working with writers who understood that there were nuances in our culture, that what they wrote sometimes didn't ring true to us. And we were able to say, can we change that? Because in our culture, this is what would happen. I mean, they had one line, they had little Ashley Sass talking back to her father. And I said, oh, excuse me, honey. No, the little girl wouldn't have any teeth. We don't know. No, she can't do that. Find another way. So they did. But that's a privilege to be able to have that kind of input.
Right. And I think obviously that's what made the show too. Yeah.
And the stories that they crafted were universal stories, universal themes. Fish out of water is always a good way to carry a tune. Mm-hmm. And they were smart enough in casting and in creating to have 5 different viewpoints in that family. Each of the children came from a whole different sphere. I mean, a different planet. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of ways to think about how to solve a crisis or a problem. And you got to see all the different ways of input to create harmony. Mm-hmm. And it all ended up being a family anyway. And I think that was the lesson that rang so true with most audiences, was that despite how weirdly different each and everybody was, everybody's viewpoint, it all added up to a nuclear family that made things happen.
Absolutely. No,
and you've got to give a lot of credit to the charisma and the talent of Will Smith. He's just a powerhouse. He's such a charismatic person and such a great personality, and his business sense and his professionalism and his energy is boundless.
Yeah. And I think you're kind of answering it now, but that was another question I had. Obviously you came to the show when it was already popular, so you knew that it had a breakout star in Will Smith for sure. But did you realize while you were on the show that, man, this guy is going to be something? Because obviously he's an entertainment juggernaut at this point. So did you know that at that time?
Yes, because he brought 180% to rehearsal. Mm-hmm. So he had a commitment to doing well, to growing. He listened well. He understood the nuances of the business, and he had good partners who helped him make good decisions. And we watched his movie career bloom. We had our comments on his performances, and he probably grew from those comments. But we weren't soft pedaling his portrayals on things. And especially James Avery would just tell him, "Guy, you gotta commit. You didn't commit it. Why didn't you do that?" Well, I was worried about the boys back at. You can't be worried about that stuff. You have to commit to the character. And he listened. So we watched him grow and bloom, and we are his biggest fans. So
yeah. I think that's the biggest thing in any career. Just listen to constructive criticism, people that you realize that are trying to make you better. If you listen, a lot of times you're just going to just
grow from it. Yeah,
exactly. So in the reunion, other than the tribute you guys made to James Avery, which was really touching, the other part that I guess was pretty heartfelt was when you guys did sit down and meet the OG Vivian. You mentioned that you hadn't met before, so just how was that to finally sit down and I guess kind of meet and talk?
I was grateful that they had invited her. We had been to other gatherings that she was not a part of. But if you're going to celebrate the 30th anniversary of a show, you better start with the person who started the show. Mm-hmm. So I was very happy. I knew nothing of the controversy. I didn't know what had happened between Will and Janet. I had no idea. I didn't follow the social media. There wasn't social media back when I was doing the show, and the cast never talked about it. I asked James once what had happened, and he said, "We're not talking about it." I said, "Okay," and I never talked about it. So when we got ready to do the reunion, the producers asked me, was I comfortable if Janet was going to be there? I said, "Yeah, it has nothing to do with me." I mean, it would be lovely to meet her. And it was lovely to meet her. And she had relaxed with Will, and she was gracious enough to embrace me as I embraced her. And the only thing I told her, well, the first thing I told her was welcome home. And I was ready to give up my seat to her. And Will said, "No, you will both have a seat here."
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I almost, as strange as it seems, I almost like that, they Will obviously talked to her and you guys watched that and they kind of talked about the issues that they had. They showed you guys meeting, but I almost like that they didn't actually have everyone sit down and now talk it out all through. I almost like that they kind of kept that between you all. I did like that.
Yeah, it was lovely. Yeah. I think it was well-produced special. I was very pleased with the outcome of the work that we had done that day. It was genuinely a family reunion. It really was a spontaneous family reunion because we're very much family.
Yeah. So how did the whole special come about? I mean, obviously shows, do reunions at different intervals, but how did you guys decide a 30-year reunion and on, that streaming service was something you wanted to do?
I didn't decide. I got invited. Yeah. It was Will's company that produced it. And he made the deal, I guess, with HBO Max and invited each of us in July, asked us, would we like to join him in a reunion? Well, who's going to say no? We were concerned about the COVID protocols, but his company took care of all of that, sent us a whole PPE package before we even got on a plane, and had lots of protocols. Screen Actors Guilds have great protocols for shooting with this pandemic, and they abided by all of the protocols and then some. So it was a lovely, comfortable way to come together, and we were able to be unmasked and do the show. Everybody else around us was masked, and we were masked when we weren't on set, but it was thrilling. It was an absolutely thrilling occasion, and it was supposed to be a secret, which was kind of fun for us. He had lots of surprises for us. He put us all in separate hotels so we wouldn't be reunionizing before the show. And they just treated us like kings and queens. And it was a great break to this COVID madness. And the show itself was a big hug for the whole community for the holidays. It was just perfectly timed and warmly received. So
Absolutely.
I was very happy.
No, it was amazing for sure. I really, really enjoyed it. So what does life look like now? Obviously, you know that you just had the 30-year reunion. I'm sure you've been doing just a couple things in the last 30 years. So what does life look like?
Life looks like whatever it's going to be. I don't look too far ahead. There's some projects in the works that people have asked my availability on. Yeah, I'm available. Call me when you get it together. And in the meantime, I'm making masks to help people stay safe. They have HEPA filters in them. I still design, and I have a custom business for sewing some of my designs. I am still doing photographs and making books and calendars and note cards. And I've been selling a cookbook for a year or two. That's a mini memoir. And I stay busy.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, I was looking at one of your books, and I think that's really cool. The book it's like pictures of doors and stuff across the world. I think that's really cool. I've done quite a bit of traveling. I always first like look up at the ceiling. I like to see ceilings and doors and things like that. So to kind of focus on that one area and just see the differences, I found that really, really cool.
Well, I think doors are a metaphor for life. So I just hope that you look at my doors and be inspired to look at the details of your life on your journey, because that's where the richness is, in the details.
Absolutely. One question I forgot to ask you when we were talking, about Fresh Prince, and then also, your marriage. Obviously, around the same time, your husband was doing a pretty popular sitcom too, in Sister Sister. So what was it like to, I guess, both just kind of be rocking out at that exact same moment? I feel like sometimes, one person has their moment and sometimes another does, but both of you guys were just firing on all cylinders at that exact same moment.
We were blessed. We were very blessed. After working together, we were used to both of us being at it at the same time. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Fresh Prince and Sister Sister. We just went to work and then we came home, and both of them were sitcoms. So we did have a life. Mm-hmm. That's a Monday through Friday kind of job. And it's like 9 to 5. You don't have to go into the night except on Fridays. So we had a great time. We did a lot of traveling, and the kids got to travel with us, and we've had a blessed life. We've really done well.
Yeah, well, I think based on just our short conversation today, I think it was well deserved. It couldn't have happened to a better person. You've been an absolute delight to talk to.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I really appreciated it. I want to be cognizant of your time. So I appreciate you being here. You have a great rest of the day, and hopefully you said people have mentioned different projects. I hope to see you on the screen sometime soon.
Yeah. In the meantime, keep up with me on DaphneMaxwellReid.com.
Yeah. Well, I've already kind of forgotten my manners there. Is there ways that people can stay in contact with you?
Yeah. My website has most of the things that I'm doing and ways to contact me. And Instagram, of course, is just Miss Daphne 13.
Miss Daphne 13. Gotcha. Well, I appreciate all your time. Yeah, absolutely. I will for sure. I don't know how I missed your Instagram. I've definitely been all over your website, but that's a project for today.
Okay. Miss Daphne 13.
You take care. Thank you very much.
Well. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
And that was my interview with Daphne Maxwell Reid. Just an amazing person. I think you could tell that she was just a delight to speak with. Hope you learned a lot. Hope you enjoyed it. I I hope you go and check out that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion special on HBO Max if you haven't already. It was a great reunion, great tribute to the show and James Avery, who played Uncle Phil, who is no longer with us. It was just a pleasure to watch that show, and a pleasure to then be able to speak to Daphne, hear her story. Everything from growing up in New York City to Northwestern and the tribulations that came with that, and then just her success in sitcoms, and of course with Fresh Prince. She was just a great person to speak with. I was honored to do it. Please do check out her website, DaphneMaxwellReid.com. Check out her cookbooks, her books showcasing doors around the world, and I'll tell you, it really is a cool book to see. And hopefully we can check her out in the future on whether it's another show or some other medium. I'd love to catch her on something else. And I really appreciate you being here this week. Hope you enjoyed this one, and take it away, Scott.
This has been Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff. Thank you for listening. Be sure to join us next time, where we will interview another amazing guest who is sure to make you laugh or make you think. Or, hey, maybe even both. But until then, keep being awesome.